Okay, opening the joint hearing on the committees of Health, Human Services, and Homelessness with the Committee on Transportation for the purpose of two measures for Thursday, February 17, 2022, the 10:30 a.m. agenda. Audience and members and testifiers, the HHH committee has instituted a 2-minute time limit. The chairs would request from departments and professional testifiers that we have your testimony and we've read it. Just so note that we need to get through these bills today. If not, we'll have to try again maybe next year. Want you, those that are listening, to know all your testimony is on the record. Members have access to it. Please mute yourself and your video off while you're waiting to testify. If there's a network failure, this hearing might have to be rescheduled or wait until our great IT staff gets back our access. Member testifiers, please avoid using trademarks, copyrights, and refrain from using profanity and uncivilized behavior. Okay, moving on to the first measure, HB 2338, relating to the State Drug, Alcohol, Toxicology Testing Lab. Department of Health.
So this is Ed Desmond from the State Laboratories Division. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Department of Transportation.
Chair Yamani, Vice Chair Kim, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Iligan, members of the committee, the Department of Transportation is in support of the measure, and in the interest of time, we would like to stand on our written testimony. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Honolulu Police Department.
Good morning, Chair Yamani, Aquino, and members. I'm Acting Forensic Laboratory Director Hugh Okubo of the Honolulu Police Department Scientific Investigation Section. The Honolulu Police Department stands on our submitted testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have testimony also submitted by Mothers Against Drunk Driving in support. Okay, noting no other testimony testifier signed up. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Transportation.
Okay, Transportation Committee, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Back to you, Health.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to HB 2339, making an emergency appropriation to the State Drug and Alcohol Toxicology Testing Laboratory Special Fund. Department of Health.
Similarly, we stand on our written testimony in strong support.
Thank you. Department of Transportation.
Chair Yamani, Vice Chair Kim, Chair Aquino, Vice Chair Iligan, members of the committee, the Department of Transportation is in support of the measure, and in the interest of time, we would like to stand on our written testimony. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, and Honolulu Police Department.
The Honolulu Police Department stands on our submitted testimony in support of House Bill 2339. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Noting this testimony in support from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. No other testimony provided. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Transportation.
Okay, committee members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. With a smile, I'll say a brief recess. Okay, reconvening the joint committees on Health, Human Services and Transportation for decision-making on these two transportation priority bills. Members, first bill, HB 2338, relating to the state drug, alcohol, toxicology, testing laboratory. Members, the recommendation of the chair is just to blank out the amount, and it'll be reflected in the committee report and in a 7/1/2060 effective date. Members, any discussion? Okay, right. You okay, right, Chair Aquino?
Yes.
Right, good, thank you. All right, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Voting on House Bill 2338, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair votes aye. Rep. Gates is excused. Rep. Har,
Aye.
Rep. Capella,
Aye.
Rep. Nishimoto.
Aye.
Rep. Ward.
Aye.
Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, transportation, thank you.
The Transportation Committee, same recommendations. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 2338 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Clark,
Aye.
Representative Hashimoto,
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa,
Aye.
Representative Lopresti,
Aye.
Representative Nakamura. I'm guessing that's an aye.
Aye.
Representative Takumi,
Aye.
Representative Matsumoto is excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool, thank you. Moving to HB 2339, making emergency appropriation to the State Drug and Alcohol Toxicology Testing Laboratory Special Fund. Members, the recommendation of the chair is to move this measure forward. We're gonna blank out the amount and then reflect it in the committee report. We need to make technical amendments for clarity, and then using a 7/1/2060 effective date. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 2339, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting all members present except for the excused absence of Rep. Gates. Any reservations? Any noes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, transportation.
Okay, thank you very much. Transportation Committee, same recommendations. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair, please.
Noting the absence of Representative Matsumoto, any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? With all members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then members for HHH, remember we have another joint at 11. Thank you. We're adjourned. Okay, opening the joint committee on Health, Human Services, and Homelessness, and the Committee of Higher Education and Technology for the purposes of a joint hearing for Thursday, February 17th, 2022, the 11 a.m. agenda. I do want to let the testifiers and members know that we have we need to get this done today in order for these measures to move. If not, due to the deadline, we would have to try again next year. We'd like to remind member testifiers that we have a 2-minute testifying time limit to have those that from the departments and professional lobbyists to know that we have your testimony in front of us, and due to time to consider that for the benefit of members to potentially ask questions. And I want to remind everybody that if we are disconnected unexpectedly, we can please retry in the meeting. If there's a network failure, the IT staff will try to get it up and going. If not, we would have to reconvene. Those that are testifying, please remember to avoid using trademarks or copyright images and refrain from profanity and uncivilized behavior. Okay, so we're moving on to the first bill, HB 1419, relating to electronic information technology accessibility. We have the Disabilities and Communication Access Board. Okay, please proceed. Yeah, go ahead.
And Vice Chair Tam. Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair Tam, and the clerk. Good morning. My name is Christine Pagano. This is my name sign, and I'm with Disability Communication and Access Board. For HB 1419, there are some comments regarding this bill. The definition of accessibility and individuals with disability, those two definitions need to be improved. They need to be amended. The language is so complicated that it is unclear for folks to understand what is written in the statute. The two terms need to be modified. The language needs to be modified. Thank you for providing comments for this testimony. Thank you very much for allowing me. So DCAB is here and available for any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Office of Enterprise Technology Services.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Doug Murdoch, the State Chief Information Officer in charge of ETS. We are opposing this bill, and we'll stand on our written testimony and stand by for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and committee members. I'm James Gasho, representing National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii. We strongly support this bill. Certainly want to thank Representative Takayama for being the lead sponsor on this bill and the 24 other members in the House who have joined in sponsoring this bill, many on these committees. Just want to say this is undoubtedly the most important bill to come before the legislature that affects our corner of the world in many, many years and maybe forever. This is a technology bill, but it's really a civil rights bill. Imagine not being able to use the Safe Travels program very well because it's got barriers and it doesn't show much aloha for those of us who use screen readers. I'm just going to stand on my written testimony for the rest of this and say mahalo for considering this bill.
Okay, PL Fritz.
Took me a second to get my sound off. Thank you. I'm an attorney. I'm an individual with a disability. I've served as chair of DCAB and the State Rehabilitation Council, and I also provide legal advice to a nonprofit tech agency. I support the creation of a work group, particularly since the 2743 says that the CIO is supposed to develop technological standards and the CIO has the ability to do so. But I would ask the committee to note that any equipment that is purchased using federal funds is subject to Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. And that act had regulations which started in 1999 and continued until 217 is the last revision. And they incorporate all of these technological standards, and Hawaii couldn't really adopt any standards that were less than those that are existing, because anytime federal money is used, they have to meet those standards. I believe that necessary parties to this work group should include the SPO and OIP, and as much as the FPO will be involved in any acquisitions, and OIP has been pushing very hard for remote meetings. I've attached a chart showing all of the states that currently adopt 508 standards, which is almost all of them. Some of them have done this separately, some of them haven't. But when New York adopted it, as I've attached to my testimony, as you read it, it's basically the 508 standards. So the reality is that if there's inaccessibility in trying to access information on the internet that the state maintains, it's really attributable to the lack of training. Because when the state adopted the electronic signature program, it standardized everybody on Adobe Acrobat as the software to use. And I can tell you that the PDF files that were produced by many state agencies suddenly became much more usable and readable, especially by people with screen readers. So this bill, as it moves forward, should move forward as I said with the work group. I'm a little concerned about adopting certain standards in the statute, such as the WC3 standards, since the 508 standards currently are set at WCH version 2. And so all the tools that are used to evaluate accessibility that were developed by the federal government are really written for 508 standards, and they comply with—
Mr. Fritz, can you please summarize?
Yes, sir.
A sentence or two?
Okay, I will stand on the rest of my testimony.
Okay, thank you. Katie Keim. Okay, in support, Virgil Stinnett. Okay, in support, members, we have testimony and support from the State Council of Developmental Disabilities, Hawaii State Committee of the Blind Vendors, from Brandon Young, Hoku Burrows, and the Department of Health Executive Office of Aging. No other persons have signed up to testify. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HB 1547 relating to graduate medical education. Kaiser Permanente.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, Jonathan Ching for Kaiser Permanente. We'll stand on our written testimony. I just want to note that, we know that that residents, I guess funding these would be really good, because not only will it provide training opportunities to acquaint graduate students with medicine in rural settings, but it also is going to provide the faculty practice on the neighbor islands. And we know we're in such desperate need of healthcare providers on the neighbor islands. So thank you very much. We'll stand on our testimony. Thank you.
University of Hawaii.
This is Jared Sedges. We stand on a written testimony, but with me today is Associate Dean Lee Wing Consejo Lum, who can address questions should there be any from the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Healthcare Association Hawaii.
Good morning, chairs, vice chairs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support. My comments will apply to the other two bills that we are testifying in support on. You know, this has been a really difficult 2 years for the healthcare industry. We've gone from crisis to crisis with every surge. We've had to do a lot of planning and a lot of response. And we do really appreciate this committee's commitment to programs and funding to bolster the healthcare workforce. We're really going to need to rebuild after this pandemic hopefully winds down soon. And we just appreciate the leadership of the legislature and these committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Queens Health Systems.
Aloha, Chair Yamane, Chair Takayama, members of the committee, Jason Makielanek on behalf of Queens. And we'll stand our written testimony in strong support of this and the next two measures as well. And we appreciate the legislature taking such an active role in trying to retain and recruit critical healthcare professionals here in the state of Hawaii. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have comments provided by Department of Budget and Finance, and the rest of the testimony all in support from the Hawaii Psychiatric Medical Association, Hawaii Medical Association, Hawaii Primary Care Association, Kulin Inouye, Hawaii Pacific Health, Jason Patel, and Sydney Tatsuno, all in support. Anyone else signed up to testify? Members, any questions? From any committee? No, don't see any. Thank you. Moving on to HB 1548 relating to graduate medical education, University of Hawaii.
Aloha, Juris Hedges again. We support this measure and again, stand on written testimony. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Queens Health Systems.
Chair, we'll stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, we have comments provided by Department of Budget and Finance. The rest is all in support. Hawaii Psychiatric Medical Association, Hawaii State Rural Health Association, Healthcare Association of Hawaii, Hawaii Primary Care Association, Mary Jane Bennett, and Hawaii Pacific Health, all in support. No one else signed up to testify. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to HB 1549, relating to loan repayment for healthcare professionals. Department of Health. Okay, in support, University of Hawaii.
This is Dean Hedges, and we are in support of this measure, which has been highly effective in stand on a written testimony. Our AHEC director is here to answer questions regarding the program if requested.
Okay, thank you. Kaiser Permanente.
Aloha, chairs. Jonathan Ching again for Kaiser Permanente. We'll stand in our written testimony in strong support of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Queens Health Systems.
Chairs, we'll stand in strong support of this measure as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Healthcare Association of Hawaii.
We'll stand in strong support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, we have comments provided by Department of Budget and Finance. All testimonies in support therefrom from DLIR, from Hawaii State Center for Nursing, East Hawaii Region of Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, Hawaii Psychiatric Medical Association, Hawaii Pacific Health, Hawaii State Rural Health Association, Hawaii Medical Association, Hawaii Primary Care Association, Stephanie Marshall, Catherine Finn Davis, Kulin Inouye, Kathleen Yokuuchi, Donald Sakamoto, Heather Mura, and Samuel Alexander, all in support. No one else testifying. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Moving on to the final measure, HB 1550, relating to Hawaii Medical Education Special Fund. University of Hawaii.
Aloha, Chairman. So this is Jared Sedges, Dean of the John A. Gordon School of Medicine. This particular measure was intended to facilitate the funds that may be forthcoming to help support graduate medical education and provide a direct means by which the legislature can monitor the use of those funds. We'll stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. We have comments provided by the Department of Budget and Finance. Rest of testimonies all in support from Hawaii Psychiatric Medical Association, Hawaii Primary Care Association, Hawaii Medical Association, Hawaii State Rural Health Association, Hawaii Pacific Health. No other people signed up for testimony. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, brief recess to attain quorum. Recess. Convening the joint hearing on the Committee of Health, Human Services and Homelessness and the Committee of Higher Education and Technology for decision-making for the Thursday, February 17th, 2022, 11 a.m. agenda. Members, first measure HB 1419 relating to electronic information technology accessibility. The recommendation of the chair is to move this measure forward. We're going to change the effective date to July 1st, 2060, and we need to make some technical amendments. Members, any discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none. Vice Chair?
Voting on House Bill 1419, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair votes aye. Rep. Gates.
Aye.
Rep. Hart.
Aye.
Rep. Capella.
Aye.
Rep. Nishimoto. Rep. Ward. Rep. Ward, please turn on your camera. Rep. Ward is excused. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Higher Ed?
Same recommendation for the Committee on Higher Education and Technology. Questions, comments, or concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Now voting on HB 1419. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Bellotti.
Aye.
Representative Gaddison.
Aye.
Representative Gates.
Aye.
Representative Hashimoto.
Aye.
Representative Capella.
Aye.
Representative Ono.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan.
Aye.
Thank you. Voting, Representative Woodson.
Aye.
You're up.
Thank you.
Representative Yamane.
Aye.
Representative Okimoto.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to HB 1547 relating to graduate medical education. Members, the recommendation of the chairs is to move this measure forward. We're going to blank out the amount and reflect it in the committee report and use a 7/1/2060 effective date. Members, any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1547, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Noting the excused absence of Rep. Ward. Any reservations? Any noes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Higher Ed?
Same recommendation. Questions, comments, concerns, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Now voting on HB 1547. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, are there any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? With all members voting aye, Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1548 relating to graduate medical education. Members, the recommendation of chair is to blank out the amount and reflect that amount in the committee report and use a 7/1/2060 effective date. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1548, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any noes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Higher Ed.
Same recommendation for our committee. Members, any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Now voting on HB 1548. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, are there any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? With all members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to HB 1549 relating to loan repayment for healthcare professionals. Members, the recommendation of the chair is to move this measure forward, blanking out the amount, reflecting it in the committee report and using a 7/1/2060 effective date. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1549, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any noes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, Higher Ed.
Same recommendation. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Now voting on HB 1549. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, are there any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? With all members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Moving to HB 1550 relating to the Hawaii Medical Education Special Fund. Members, the recommendation of the chair is to move this measure forward as an HD1. We're just going to change the effective date to July 1st, 2060. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on House Bill 1550, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any noes? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, Higher Ed.
Same recommendation. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Now voting on HB 1550. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, are there any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? With all members voting aye, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, all members. We are adjourned.